The champagne glass shattered before I even realized it had slipped from my hand. The sound cracked across the marble like a gunshot. Every head turned, and in the center of it all, my mother's voice sliced through the silence. "God, Isla, you've embarrassed us again." The room froze. Her slap still burned across my cheek. I could taste blood. My sister Vivienne stood beside her in that gold silk gown, perfect, untouchable, pretending to be shocked, though her eyes were smiling. It was supposed to be my night. The night I finally presented my first art collection. My dream, my fight, my everything. But when the spotlight hit the canvas, it wasn't my name on the plaque. It was hers, Vivienne Robinson, my sister, my mother's chosen heir. The golden face of House Robinson, the luxury empire that defined beauty, money, and power. I stared at the signature, my brushstrokes, my soul, all under her name. When I turned to my mother, waiting for her to correct it, she only said, "You should be grateful, Isla. Vivienne's name carries weight. Yours doesn't." That's when the glass slipped. That's when the slap came. And that's when I knew. Whatever family I'd believed in died right there beneath the chandelier's light. Later, I locked myself in the gallery restroom. Mascara streaked down my face like ink. Outside, the party went on. Laughter, music, clinking glasses. Vivienne was probably already giving interviews. My mother, Celeste Robinson, would be smiling for the cameras, the perfect matriarch. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You don't deserve what they did to you." My breath caught. "Who is this?" I typed no reply. Just 3 dots. Then, nothing. I looked at my reflection. The trembling lips. The red mark on my cheek. The fear in my eyes, and then a thought. What if I stopped being afraid? What if I stopped being the quiet disappointment? The shadow behind Vivienne's spotlight? Celeste's voice echoed in my head. "You'll never be like your sister." For the first time I smiled. "Good," I whispered. "I'll be worse." When I stepped out of that restroom, I wasn't the same woman anymore. The pianist's notes drifted through the air, delicate, expensive, hollow. Guests stared as I walked past. I ignored every one of them. Vivienne caught my eye from across the room. Her hand rested on the arm of a man I didn't recognize. Tall, immaculate suit, watch worth more than my car. He whispered something in her ear. She laughed. I recognized that laugh. It was the sound of everything I'd ever lost. I left the gallery without a word. Not to her. Not to my mother. Not to anyone pretending to admire her work. Outside, the cold night sliced through the city like glass. Lights shimmered across the skyline. Gold, cruel, alive. Somewhere between the skyscrapers and the silence, I made a promise. I would rise from the ashes they buried me under. And when I did, they'd wish they'd never spoken my name. But revenge isn't built in a day. It's built in whispers, in patience, in pain, and sometimes it starts with a message from a stranger. They'll pay. I can help you. Who sent the message? And what did they want from Isla Robinson? I didn't sleep that night. The message kept flashing on my screen like a heartbeat. They'll pay. I can help you. I stared at it until dawn bled through my curtains. Help me how? Who even knew what happened? No one had seen what Vivienne and Celeste did behind the scenes. They were too polished, too careful, but someone knew. Someone was watching. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because in the Robinson family, trust is just another word for weakness. And I'd learned that lesson long before the slap. When I was a child, our house smelled like roses and money. Every surface gleamed. Marble, gold trim, crystal chandeliers. Even the air felt expensive. But underneath it all was something rotten. Celeste ran House Robinson like an empire, and she expected perfection. Vivienne was perfection. I was noise. When Vivienne and I were 12 and 10, she got a piano. I got silence. She performed for guests in lace dresses. I painted in the attic, because paint didn't photograph well. Mother hated mess. But art is mess. Once I remember Vivian accidentally spilling wine on her dress before a charity gala. Celeste just laughed. "It's fine, darling. We'll buy another." A week later, I dropped a sketchbook in the same room. Celeste didn't laugh then. She ripped the pages apart right in front of me. "Garbage doesn't belong in this house, Isla." She called it tough love. I called it what it was, cruelty and couture. By 17, I'd learned to disappear. Vivian got magazine covers. I got grounding. Vivian had private tutors and photo shoots. I had solitude and locked doors, but I didn't envy her. Not then. I pitied her, because I saw the way Celeste's approval came with invisible strings. Strings wrapped so tight Vivian couldn't breathe without permission. She smiled for the cameras, but I saw the bruises on her knuckles, the ones she covered with diamonds. I saw the way she flinched when Celeste raised her voice, and I thought maybe, just maybe, Vivian was as trapped as I was. I was wrong, because somewhere between pity and sisterhood, Vivian learned the golden rule of our family. If you can't beat them, become them. I found that out the night she sold me out. We were 19. Celeste had been invited to an international art gala in Paris. I begged to come, just to see the work, to learn, to breathe. Vivian promised she'd convince her. A week later, I walked into Celeste's office and heard them talking. "Mother, she's not ready," Vivian said, her tone dripping with concern. "She doesn't understand refinement. She'll embarrass you." I stood there in the doorway, silent, invisible. Celeste nodded slowly. "She's right. Isla needs to focus on finding her place, not chasing Vivian's shadow. My place. That's what she always called it. My place. As if I was a guest in my own family. That night, I stopped asking for their approval. But I didn't stop watching. Now, years later, sitting in my apartment surrounded by unfinished canvases, I could still hear them. Their voices, their laughter, their judgments, echoing like ghosts. The message glowed again on my phone screen. "They'll pay. I can help you," I typed one word back. "How?" Seconds passed. Then came the reply. "Meet me tomorrow, noon, Café Bellamy." Come alone. My pulse kicked. Café Bellamy, an upscale place downtown, the kind of spot where my family used to brunch for photo ops. This could have been a setup. A prank, a trap, but something in me didn't care anymore. I'd already lost everything they could take. What else was left? I stared out the window as the city shimmered awake. Vivian's face was on a billboard across the street. The new campaign for House Robinson, dripping in diamonds, smiling like she'd never done a cruel thing in her life. I felt the rage rise inside me again, quiet and sharp. I whispered to her image under my breath. "Enjoy it while you can." The next day, I walked into Café Bellamy, wearing the same black dress I'd worn to my failed gallery night. A small act of rebellion, a reminder of what they'd stolen. The place smelled like espresso and privilege. I scanned the tables. Then I saw him sitting in the corner. The man from the gallery. Vivian's mystery companion, he looked up. Smiled like he'd been waiting for me. "I told you," he said. "I can help you, Isla." Who is this man? And why was he at the gallery with Vivian Robinson the night everything fell apart? He didn't say his name at first, just smiled, slow and deliberate, like someone who knew more than he should. The cafe was quiet, all marble tables and muted jazz. I sat across from him, pulse steady, hands hidden beneath the table. I didn't trust him, but curiosity has a way of drowning out caution. "You were at the gallery," I said. "With my sister," he nodded. "Vivian Robinson, the flawless one." The way he said her name made me look up, like he was spitting out poison. "Who are you?" I asked. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Someone who's seen what your family does to people." For a moment, I thought he might be bluffing, some opportunist trying to exploit my public humiliation. But then he said something that made my blood run cold. "You're not the first they've stolen from." His name was Adrien Leclerc, investor, philanthropist, the kind of man whose watch cost more than my apartment rent for a year. The same man who'd been in every article about Vivian's recent success. You're her business partner, I said, my voice shaking. He smirked. Was. That single word was a crack of thunder in my chest. He told me that House Robinson wasn't just a family empire. It was a trap. A gilded cage Celeste built on other people's dreams. Designs borrowed, collaborators erased, names forgotten. And Vivian? She was her mother's perfect weapon. The smiling thief in couture. He showed me proof, documents, contracts, emails, Vivian's, name plastered on designs that weren't hers, stolen from smaller, artists bought, silenced, buried. One of those sketches was mine. From years ago, a design I'd made in college. For a scholarship I never won. Vivian had entered it under her name. And she'd won, my vision blurred. My chest tightened. Why are you showing me this? I whispered. He studied me for a long moment. Because you're the only one who can burn them from the inside. The words hung between us like smoke. I thought about my mother's slap. Vivian's smile. The gallery. My whole life spent in their shadow. Maybe this was my chance. But there was something about Adrian I couldn't place. Something too calm, too rehearsed. And what do you get out of this? I asked. He smiled again. Closure. It wasn't an answer. But it was enough. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Vivian. About how perfect she looked on those magazine covers. The perfect daughter. The perfect heiress. The perfect lie. I remembered being 16, sneaking into her room when she was away for a shoot. Everything smelled like her perfume, white jasmine and envy. Her vanity table glimmered with gold lipstick tubes and pearl hairpins. And in the drawer, tucked beneath a velvet case, I found something odd. A sketchbook. Mine. The one Celeste had torn apart years ago. Vivian had taped the pages back together. Copied them. Traced them. And I hadn't realized it until now. She'd been studying me. Every idea I ever had, she'd taken. Every weakness she'd learned. She didn't just want to be admired. She wanted to be me, but better. Rebranded, polished, sellable. By midnight, I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my coat and left my apartment, walking aimlessly through the city. Neon lights shimmered in puddles like melted gold. The wind carried laughter from rooftop bars. Somewhere above it all, Vivian Robinson slept in her penthouse, surrounded by everything she'd ever stolen. I thought about Adrian's offer. The word revenge sounded electric now, hot, dangerous, alive. But there's a rule I've learned about power. The people who hand it to you rarely do it for free. At 2 a.m., I got another message. You've made your decision yet? No greeting, no name. Just that same chilling tone. I typed back, if I do this, we do it my way. He replied instantly. Then let's begin. My fingers trembled, but not from fear. From something new. Something sharp. Something like hunger. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being controlled. I was the one setting the fire. Still, as I lay in bed that night, one thought refused to leave me. Adrian knew too much. And Vivian, she was too careful to let someone get close without a reason. So why had she trusted him? And what exactly had gone wrong between them? Because something told me this wasn't just about stolen art or money. There was something else. Something personal. And when I found out what it was, it would change everything. What secret did Vivian and Adrian share? And why does he really want revenge on the Robinsons? Adrian didn't contact me for 3 days. 3 long, silent days. Just enough time for paranoia to start whispering again. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he'd told Vivian. Or maybe this was how revenge started. Slow, subtle, one heartbeat at a time. But on the 4th night, an envelope slid under my apartment door. No name, no address. Just my initials, IR, scrawled in black ink. Inside was a photograph. Vivian, laughing. Her hand tangled in Adrian's hair. Her lips pressed to his. The photo was taken in secret. Grainy. Intimate. Too raw to be a publicity stunt. My stomach turned. That was the connection. Adrian wasn't just a business partner. He'd been her lover, and something had happened between them. Something ugly enough to turn love into vengeance. I called him that night. He answered on the first ring. "So that's how you get people's attention," I said. He didn't sound surprised. "Now you understand why I want to destroy her." "You loved her." He was silent for a moment. I thought I did, until I realized what she'd done. "To you? To me, to others. To you?" His tone hardened. "Vivian doesn't love anyone. She collects them until they're no longer useful." His voice dropped, quieter now. "She used me to fund her expansion. She promised partnership, then cut me out. When I confronted her, your mother stepped in. Threatened to bury me if I went public. That sounded exactly like Celeste Robinson. Cold, controlled, deadly," Adrian continued. "But the proof still exists. Financial records, confidential messages, the kind of things that could ruin them if they ever reached the press. So why haven't you leaked them?" He chuckled bitterly. "Because a scandal isn't enough. They'd recover. They always do. No, we need to make them destroy themselves. From the inside." That night, I sat alone in my apartment with the photo between my fingers. I should have been furious. I should have been disgusted. But mostly, I felt vindicated. Vivian had finally met someone who saw her the way I did. Not as a goddess, but as a predator dressed in gold. Still, part of me hesitated. If I went through with this, there was no turning back. Revenge isn't a fairy tale. It's rot. It eats everything it touches. But then I remembered the slap, the laughter, the humiliation, and suddenly, the hesitation vanished. The first step was to get close again. To pretend I wanted peace. I knew Vivian's assistant, Marla, from years ago. She used to sneak me leftovers from the kitchen staff during photo shoots. So I called her. "Marla, it's Isla. I know it's been a while, but I'd like to see my sister." A pause. Then, careful. "Is this about the gallery?" "No, it's about family." Lies taste sweet when you've been fed bitterness your whole life. 2 days later, I walked into the lobby of House Robinson for the first time in years. Marble floors, velvet chairs, the scent of white orchids, my mother's favorite. Everywhere I looked, I saw Vivian's face, printed on posters, glowing from screens. Her brand, her empire, built on my silence. Marla led me upstairs to Vivian's private office. When she saw me, her expression flickered, a mix of surprise and calculation. "Well," she said slowly, "if it isn't the tragic little artist." "I just wanted to talk," I said. "Talk?" she smirked. "Or beg." Her words hit like shards of glass. But I didn't flinch. "You took my work, Vivian. My name, my dignity. I just want to understand why." She leaned back in her chair, eyes glittering. "Because I could." The simplicity of it almost broke me. Almost. Then she stood, walking around the desk until she was inches from me. Her perfume filled the air, jasmine and venom. "You'll never be me, Isla. No one remembers the shadow. They only remember what the light touches." "Maybe," I said softly, "but light burns too." Her smirk faltered just slightly. I turned to leave, but before I reached the door, she said, "By the way, Mother wants to see you." "Don't keep her waiting," I froze. Celeste Robinson wanted to see me? It had been years since she'd even acknowledged my existence. Vivian's tone was casual, but her eyes were gleaming. She wanted me to go. She wanted me cornered. I left the office without a word. My phone buzzed as soon as the elevator doors closed. "Adrian, you saw her?" Yes, Adrian. And? Me. She invited me to see my mother." Adrian. "Good. That means they're nervous." Or, I typed back, "It means they're ready." He didn't respond. But in the mirrored wall of the elevator, I saw my reflection. And for the first time, I didn't look like a victim. I looked like the storm coming for them. What does Celeste Robinson want from Isla? And has Vivian already set her up for something far worse than she realizes? The Robinson mansion hadn't changed. Still impossibly large, impossibly white, impossibly cold. Like a mausoleum built for people who thought they'd never die. The butler recognized me, but didn't greet me. Just opened the door, wordless, as if I were some forgotten ghost returning to haunt the place. Inside, the air smelled like cedar polish and money. Every corner gleamed. Every photo frame showed them. My mother, my sister, their perfect smiles. Not a single trace of me. I walked down the corridor, my footsteps muffled by the Persian rug, until I reached the study door. It was already open. Celeste Robinson sat by the fireplace, back straight, posture carved from marble. She was reading something, a ledger maybe, or one of her endless contracts, until she noticed me. "Isla," she said, not looking up. "You've returned." Her voice was calm, deliberate. The kind of tone that could slice your throat without raising a decibel. "Vivian said you wanted to see me?" "Did she?" Celeste finally looked up. "That girl always did enjoy playing messenger. Sit." I stayed standing. "I prefer to stand." Her eyes flicked up sharply. A small, cold smile. "Still dramatic, I see. Your father used to hate that." "I wouldn't know. He died before I learned how to please you both." A pause. The fire cracked softly between us. "You're angry," she said. "Understandable. You think we wronged you." "You did." She studied me, not as a mother but as an adversary. "Then tell me, Isla, what exactly do you believe we took from you?" "My work. My career, my name. You let Vivian steal everything and called it family strategy." Celeste sighed. "Not with guilt, with boredom. You always mistake survival for cruelty." "You call what you did survival?" "Yes. You never had the temperament for this world. You feel too much." You hesitate. "You think reputation bends to emotion?" "Maybe it should." "No," she said, eyes glinting. "Because emotion ruins women like us. It ruined your grandmother. It nearly ruined me. And it would have ruined Vivian if I hadn't stopped you." That word, stopped, hit something deep in my chest. "Stopped me from what?" "From dragging her down with you. You never understood what we were trying to build. You wanted art. We needed legacy." Her voice softened, but it wasn't kindness. It was pity. "You were born too much like your father, idealistic, unguarded. That's why I had to send you away." The room tilted slightly. I felt dizzy, like the ground itself was betraying me. "You sent me away?" I whispered. "You told me to leave after the scandal. You said I humiliated this family." She tilted her head. "Yes, because you needed to learn how the world really works." "By destroying me?" "By freeing you," she said simply. "I made you irrelevant, so Vivian could rise." Her calmness was unbearable, like a surgeon explaining how she'd amputated the wrong limb, but for the greater good. "You sacrificed me." "I chose the stronger daughter," she said. "You were never meant for the spotlight. You're the shadow, and shadows only exist to make the light look brighter." Something inside me cracked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stopped feeling. For the first time in my life, I understood her. Celeste didn't hate me. She erased me because she thought she was protecting what mattered most, the Robinson name. But all I could think was, what happens when the light burns out? I turned toward the door. She didn't stop me, just said softly, "You'll thank me one day, Isla. When you realize love is the cruelest weakness of all." I walked out before she could see my hands shaking. Outside, I sat in my car, staring at the house through the rain-smeared windshield. Every window glowed like a wound. Then my phone buzzed. "Adrian." "Well?" "Me. She thinks she saved me." "Adrian." "Then she's already lost." His next message came a moment later. "Adrian, it's time you saw what your mother did to your father." Adrian reveals he has evidence. Something Celeste buried decades ago, involving Isla's father's death. That secret will twist everything Isla thought she knew about her family and herself. The night Adrian sent that message, I couldn't breathe. It's time you saw what your mother did to your father. The words clung to my skin like oil. For years, I believed my father's death was an accident, a heart attack in his study. That's what Celeste told the papers. That's what Vivian cried about at the funeral, mascara running perfectly down her face for the cameras. I never questioned it. I never dared, but now I wasn't so sure. We met again that same night at Adrian's apartment. He lived high above the city, glass walls, dim light, jazz humming low in the background. The kind of place built by a man who liked control. He opened the door before I even knocked. "You came fast," he said. "You said you had something I needed." He motioned toward the desk. Stacks of documents, folders, old photographs. A ledger bound in cracked black leather sat at the center like an accusation. "This," Adrian said, tapping the cover, "belonged to your father." I hesitated. "How did you even get that?" "Because your mother buried it, literally, in the Robinson archives. I have contacts. People who owed me favors." He flipped the book open. Inside, handwritten notes in my father's neat looping pen. Numbers, transactions, dates, and names. Names I recognized. Donors, politicians, corporate figures. All tied to House Robinson. "Your father wasn't just an art collector," Adrian said. "He was laundering money through his galleries and for your mother." My pulse spiked. "That's impossible." He adored his work. He adored her, Adrian said. She convinced him it was for the family legacy. But when the account started collapsing, when he realized she was embezzling behind his back, he tried to back out. And? Adrian's eyes softened just a little. 3 days later, he was dead. I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, you're saying she killed him?" "I'm saying your father's autopsy report disappeared. The doctor who signed it moved overseas 2 weeks later. Celeste bought the practice. You connect the dots." My throat closed up. I could still see my father's face, tired, kind, worn from years of trying to keep peace in a house ruled by ego. He used to sit me on his lap and whisper, "Don't let her harden you, Isla." And she had. She hardened me into stone. Adrian watched me quietly. "You don't have to believe me," he said. "But I think your father left something behind. Something he wanted you to find." He slid a single photograph across the table. It showed a painting, unfinished, abstract, in shades of gray and gold. At the bottom, faintly signed, "For IR. When the truth hurts, look beneath the light." It was found in his studio, Adrian said. Your mother sealed it off after his death. No one's been inside since. The studio, of course. The one place she'd forbidden me to go near. The one room in that mansion that always stayed locked. I stared at the photo until my hands trembled. "You want me to break in?" "I want you to take back what's yours. You're helping me too easily, Adrian." "Why?" He didn't answer right away. Just looked out at the city, lights flickering against the rain. "Because I owe your family a debt," he said finally. "And I intend to pay it back, with interest." That night, I drove to the mansion again. The gates were closed. The guards gone. Celeste was out of town for some charity gala. Vivian was with her. Perfect. I slipped through the side path, my heart pounding so loud it drowned the rain. Every shadow felt alive. Every creak of the house felt like a ghost. The studio door was at the back of the east wing. Still locked, but I'd learned a thing or two from years of being shut out. A single hairpin and 10 seconds later, click. The door groaned open. The smell hit me first, turpentine, dust, faint traces of my father's cologne. The air was heavy, untouched. His easel stood in the center. The same painting from Adrian's photo, gray and gold, unfinished, shimmering under a single hanging light. I stepped closer. "Beneath the light," I whispered. I reached up, unscrewed the bulb, and felt along the fixture. Nothing. Then I noticed the frame. Thicker than it should be. I pried it open with trembling fingers, and a small envelope slid out, sealed with wax. Inside, a key. And a single note in my father's handwriting. "If you're reading this, they've already rewritten the truth. Follow the numbers." Trust no one named Robinson. I froze. Then I heard it, a soft click, like a phone camera shutter. I turned, but the room was empty. The light flickered once, twice. Then my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. Nice to see you home again, Isla. Someone's been watching Isla inside the mansion, and they have proof she's digging. But who, Celeste? Vivian? Or someone far closer? The message glowed against the darkness like a threat. Nice to see you home again, Isla. For a full minute I couldn't move. I just stood there in my father's studio, heart pounding, breath jagged, clutching that note like it was the only thing keeping me real. Then came another ping. You shouldn't be here. I spun around, scanning the shadows. Nothing. Just the soft hum of the light and the rain against the windows. Who are you? I texted back. The reply came instantly. Someone who knows what happens to Robinsons who dig too deep. A shiver cut through me. I bolted from the room, down the corridor, nearly tripping over the rug. My pulse roared in my ears as I reached the front door, only to find it slightly ajar. Someone had been inside. I drove straight to Adrian's apartment. Didn't even knock, I just shoved the door open. What the hell did you get me into? I shouted. He was already waiting, calm, almost smug, sipping from a glass. I take it you found the note. Someone's been watching me. They were in the house. He didn't look surprised. They were probably always watching. You think Celeste runs a multi-million-dollar empire without eyes everywhere? I paced the room, hands shaking. You knew this could happen. Of course I did. And you walked right into it, which means they'll panic now. Panic makes people sloppy. He said it like this was a game of chess. But this wasn't strategy. This was my life. What did my father mean? Follow the numbers. I asked, Adrian's eyes sharpened. That ledger wasn't just accounting. It was coded. There's an offshore account somewhere, under an alias your father used before he died. If we find it, we find the paper trail linking Celeste to his death. And Vivian. He hesitated. Vivian's name is all over those transfers. She wasn't just complicit, Isla. She benefited. I sat down, dizzy. You're telling me my sister helped bury your father's reputation? She was the face, your mother was the machine. And your father? The casualty. Something in me snapped. Not rage, not sadness. Something colder. Something like clarity. Then we take everything from them, I said quietly. Adrian leaned forward, almost smiling. Now you sound like a Robinson. Over the next few days, we dug. Every night, every waking hour, tracking old accounts, cross-referencing invoices, decoding my father's entries. He was smarter than they realized. Each number connected to a date, each date to a purchase. Artworks, shell galleries, silent auctions, and every transaction pointed to one destination, the Lumiere Foundation, a charity owned by Vivian Robinson. Front for money laundering. It was raining again when I finally confronted her. She was filming an interview downtown. Perfect lighting, silk gown, flawless hair. Vivian always knew how to play the camera. I waited until the crew wrapped. She spotted me immediately, eyes narrowing like she'd seen a ghost. Isla? Miss me? She forced a smile, the kind that only showed teeth. You look different. Rough, even. Grief suits me. A flicker of something crossed her face. Guilt? Fear? No, amusement. Still dramatic, she said. Still blaming everyone but yourself. You stole from Dad. The words came out sharp, final. No accusation, just truth. Vivian didn't flinch. You really shouldn't dig up old ghosts, little sister. You don't know what you'll find. I found a ledger. His handwriting. Proof of what you and Mom did. Her eyes darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Then why are your hands shaking? She laughed softly, not nervous, but dangerous. You think you're the first person who's tried to destroy us? You don't understand how powerful Mother is? Maybe not. But I understand what fear looks like. Fear? She said, stepping closer. You should be afraid. Because you're playing a game that doesn't end with survival. It ends with silence. She leaned in, close enough for me to smell her perfume. Gardenia and venom. Leave the past buried, Isla, or it'll bury you. Then she walked away, heels echoing like gunshots across the marble floor. That night, I sat in my car for hours, staring at the rain. I thought about her words, about silence, and then I realized something. The message, the camera click in the studio, the unlocked door. This wasn't about warning me. It was about control. They weren't just watching. They were recording. Every step, every conversation, every slip, cataloged. So if I ever tried to fight back, they'd destroy me with my own image. That's when I understood the real reason my father's name vanished. He wasn't erased because he died. He was erased because he resisted. I looked up through the windshield at the city lights blurring through the storm. My reflection stared back, pale, hollow-eyed, trembling. Then my phone buzzed again. A video file. No text. No sender ID. I pressed play. The footage showed me, standing in my father's studio holding the note. From somewhere unseen, a whisper. Pretty, isn't it? The way history repeats. The camera tilted, revealing the reflection in the glass. Vivienne. Watching me, smiling. Vivienne has been watching Isla from the start, orchestrating her every move, just like Celeste once did. But what Vivienne doesn't realize? Isla's not playing her mother's game anymore. She's rewriting the rules. The video haunted me for days. Vivienne standing behind the glass, recording me. Her face calm, triumphant, like she already knew how the story would end. But what she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that the scared, fragile girl they buried years ago was gone. They wanted a ghost. I'd give them one. I started small, quiet, invisible. Every Robinson weakness lived online, in glossy PR releases, charity events, lavish fundraisers. They built an empire on image, so I made the image rot. I created a fake account, then 3 more, names that sounded just credible enough to spread whispers. Anonymous art critics, ex-assistants, former investors. Each post a thread, a story, a hint. Where did the Lumiere Foundation's donations really go? What happened to the artist whose gallery House Robinson acquired? The questions spread like fire. Hashtags, speculation, tiny cracks forming in a flawless mirror. Adrian helped. He had contacts in the press, the kind who didn't care about morality, only headlines. They'll deny everything at first, he said. But you need to give them proof. I have it, I told him. The ledger. My father's key. And Vivienne's fear? He smiled. Then it's time for Act 2. We staged it carefully. The next Robinson Gala, their annual Legacy of Light fundraiser. The event that defined their status. Every politician, socialite, and billionaire in attendance. The perfect place to make them bleed. I wore black again, not the cheap dress from my failed exhibition, but a tailored gown Adrian had custom made. Silk, severe, silent, a morning dress disguised as couture. When I walked in, every head turned. Even Vivienne's. For a second, her face froze. Then she smiled, perfectly composed. Sister, she said through gritted teeth. I didn't realize you were invited. I wasn't, I said softly. But you always loved surprises. The ballroom glimmered like a dream. Gold chandeliers, champagne towers, live orchestra. Everything Celeste Robinson had ever loved. Control, admiration, spectacle. She stood at the podium, ready to deliver her annual speech about philanthropy and artistic legacy. I could practically recite it from memory. But tonight, the script would change. At the back of the room, Adrian stood near the tech booth. He met my gaze and gave a single nod. The cue. The lights dimmed. The orchestra stilled. And the screen behind Celeste flickered to life. At first, just the Robinson logo. Elegant, gold. Then numbers. Ledger entries. Dates. Photos of Vivienne signing forged contracts. Celeste's signature on offshore documents. And finally, the video. The one Vivienne took of me in the studio. Only this time it didn't end there, because I'd added something new. A second clip. One Adrian found buried in the archives, security footage. Dated the night my father died. It showed Celeste walking into the study. Then the lights cutting out. And minutes later, two figures dragging a body out of frame. The crowd gasped. The orchestra members froze. Someone screamed. Vivian stumbled forward, pale. "Turn it off!" she shouted. "This is fake!" But it was too late, because I was already on stage. "You wanted legacy," I said, my voice echoing through the stunned silence. "Now everyone will remember what it cost." Celeste just stood there, unblinking, her empire collapsing in front of her, one headline at a time. "You don't understand what you've done," she whispered. "Oh, I do," I said. "I finally finished your masterpiece." The next morning, the world woke up to chaos. House Robinson under investigation. Celeste Robinson resigns as CEO. Vivienne Robinson cuts ties amid scandal. Their downfall spread across every news outlet. Their sponsors fled. Their legacy of light had turned to ash, Adrian called that afternoon. "You did it." "No," I said. "We did it. What now?" I looked out the window, rain streaking the glass, city glowing below. Now I make sure it lasts. That night, I received one more message. No name, no number, just a single sentence. "The truth never stays buried, Isla." Attached was a photo, the same gala, same stage, taken from the balcony. Someone had been watching me again, only this time the figure in the reflection wasn't Vivian, it was Adrian. Isla realizes she might have been manipulated all over again, this time by the man who helped her burn her family down. The press called it the Robinson scandal. Mom called it a misunderstanding. And Vivian? She didn't say a word. Not to anyone, but she didn't need to. Her silence screamed louder than any confession could. The night before her sentencing, I stood outside her mansion. The same one I once cleaned, watered plants in, and got sneered at for touching the furniture. Now the gates were wrapped in yellow police tape. Cameras flashed. Journalists shouted questions. And I just smiled. Funny, right? How the world turns. Inside, she looked nothing like the golden girl the tabloids worshipped. Her hair was tangled, her eyes red from crying. And when she saw me, she whispered, "Isla." "What did you do?" I stepped closer, heels echoing on marble she once told me I'd never afford. "I just told the truth," I said quietly. Her jaw trembled. "No, you set me up." "I set you free," I replied. "From pretending to be perfect." She lunged forward, voice breaking. "You ruined me!" I leaned in close enough that she could see how calm I was. "No, Vivian, you ruined yourself," she started crying. Not the fake kind she used to practice in the mirror before family interviews. Real, raw, messy tears. For a second, something in me cracked. She was still my sister. Still the girl who used to braid my hair when Mom wasn't around. But then I remembered the night she smiled while Mom tore my scholarship letter in half. I remembered the way she said, "Maybe some people just aren't meant to shine." And I walked away. The next morning, the world watched as the Robinson family name, once dripping with prestige, crumbled live on every channel. Fraud, embezzlement, false charity fronts, all connected to my mother's company, all exposed by one anonymous whistleblower. Guess who? Mom went down swinging. She called it a witch hunt. She told the press her daughters were victims of jealousy. But evidence doesn't lie. Bank transfers, fake documents, secret accounts in my sister's name. It was all there. I didn't have to frame them. I just had to let the truth breathe. When the dust settled, I found myself standing in a place I never imagined. My own office. My own foundation. Helping girls like me, the ones who were told they'd never be enough. And one day, a letter arrived. From prison, from Mom. Her handwriting was still perfect, elegant, like her image used to be. She wrote, "Isla, you won. I hope it was worth it. You'll never understand the sacrifices I made to protect you from the world. You destroyed your family. Congratulations." I stared at the words for a long time, and then I laughed. Protect me? She destroyed me. And when I rebuilt myself, she called it betrayal. That night, I visited the old Robinson estate one last time. It was empty now, repossessed, hollow, echoing with ghosts of luxury and lies. I walked through the halls, my heels stirring up dust where pearls and champagne once glittered. In the grand hallway, I found the old family portrait still hanging. Mom in her pearls, Dad pretending not to hate her, Vivian flawless as ever, and me, in the corner, looking like an afterthought. I stood there for a long while. Then I took the frame off the wall, pulled out the photo, and lit it on fire. As the flames licked up the edges, I whispered, "You were right, Mom. I'll never be like my sister." Smoke curled upward. Because I don't destroy people for power, I destroy them for justice. I watched the ashes fall onto the marble floor, scattering like the last remains of who I used to be. Then I turned and walked out, not just of the house, but of the life that was never mine to begin with. Outside, dawn was breaking. A soft golden light poured over the lawn, the city skyline glowing in the distance. For the first time in my life, I felt free, but freedom has a cost. And in the back of my mind, one question still whispered like smoke. If I could do it all again, knowing what I know now, would I? Would I still burn it all down? I thought revenge would taste sweet, that once everything burned, I'd finally feel whole again. But as I stood there, watching the last of the Robinson mansion crumble into ash, I realized something. Revenge doesn't end with peace. It ends with silence, and silence can be deafening. The weeks after the scandal felt surreal. Everyone wanted a piece of me. Journalists called me the girl who exposed the Golden family. Talk shows wanted interviews. Documentary producers sent offers. I was trending, Isla Robinson, the forgotten daughter who took down her own blood. But behind every camera flash, there was a shadow. Behind every compliment, an echo of guilt. Late at night, when I was alone in my apartment, I'd replay everything. Mom's screams when the police came for her. Vivian's trembling hands gripping her dress in court. My father's blank face on the news, pretending he'd had no idea. And then, me. Standing in the middle of it all, calm, cold, victorious. Was I really any better than them? One night, I got a call. Block number? A woman's voice, soft and unsteady. Isla. I froze. Vivian? She sighed, the sound brittle, broken. Yeah, it's me. I didn't know what to say. I expected anger, accusations, but instead, she said something I never imagined. You were right. I blinked. About what? Everything, she whispered. Mom lied to both of us. She used me, Isla. She told me to hurt you. To make sure you never outshined me. The world tilted. My breath caught. What? She said if I made you feel small, you'd stay safe, invisible. She thought that was protection. Her voice cracked. I thought I was being a good daughter. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The phone felt heavy in my hand. All that pain, all that humiliation, and it had been orchestrated by Mom from the start. I whispered, "Where are you?" Rehab, Vivian said quietly. I'm trying to fix things. With myself. Maybe one day, with you. And before I could respond, she hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I drove. Through the city, past the flashing billboards and glittering glass towers. Everything Mom used to worship. I stopped by the old foundation building, now mine, and stared at my name etched in the glass. Isla Robinson Foundation. It should have felt like victory. It didn't, because now I understood what my mom really meant when she said I'd never be like my sister. She wasn't insulting me. She was predicting it. Vivian had been molded by her, shaped, manipulated, polished until she reflected Mom's every lie. I never fit that mold, and for that she hated me, but she was right. I'd never be like Vivian, because I'd never let my worth depend on anyone's approval again. Months later, I visited the prison. Mom wanted to see me. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. No pearls, no designer suit. Just a woman, small, tired, and finally stripped of everything she used to hide behind. "You look good," she said, her voice cool. "Success suits you." I didn't respond. She tilted her head, eyes searching mine. "So, is this what you wanted? To watch me rot?" I leaned back, calm. "No. I wanted you to see what happens when the truth finally breathes." Her lips curled into a bitter smile. "You sound just like your father." That stung. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I stood, walked to the door, and turned back one last time. "I'm not like you," I said. "And that's my greatest victory." Then I left her there, in that cold, gray room, with nothing but the truth she'd spent her life avoiding. 6 months later, I stood on a stage accepting an award for my foundation. Flashes, applause, smiles. And yet, when I looked into the crowd, I thought I saw Vivienne. Just a glimpse, a shadow slipping out the door. Maybe it was her, maybe not. But something inside me softened. Maybe some stories don't end in forgiveness. Maybe some just fade, leaving behind scars that don't hurt anymore. After the ceremony, I went to the balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly below me. The air was cool, quiet, free. I took a deep breath and whispered, "You were right, Mom." The wind caught the words and carried them away. I'll never be like my sister, because I learned to burn without losing myself. I smiled. Not the brittle kind I used to fake, but a real, quiet one. One that belonged entirely to me. And as the night folded around me, one thought stayed. Revenge doesn't rebuild you. Truth does. If you were me, would you have burned it all down too? Tell me in the comments.